Okay, well, we are here for another conversation with a former client. This is Kate. Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, so we are doing a trip down memory lane. Kate worked with me back in 2017 when her daughter Eve was 1.5. So, why don't you tell us what life looked like back when Eve was 1.5 in 2017 and why you reached out to me?
So I had been co-sleeping sort of accidentally for about a year and a half. I had kind of given in to sleeping next to Eve because I was getting so sleepy when I was breastfeeding. And so I also was desperate for more sleep. So I thought that that was going to get me more sleep. And it was turning out that it was getting me way less sleep. As she was getting older, what you called the sleep crutches were not working anymore. So the bouncing on the yoga ball and breastfeeding to sleep and all that was not working.
Yeah.
So we were up for like 4 or 5 times a night. And I realized um, once, from talking to you that she was getting her calories at night. And so, yeah, she was breastfeeding a lot, and we were both tired during the day because I don't think she was getting enough sleep. And I really was just done with co-sleeping. I was uncomfortable. I remember the thing that got me to call you is that I like pulled my neck because you sleep in such weird positions,
Yes.
especially with older children. So I've
Yes.
been like sleeping on like one weird corner of a mattress on the floor. It's like I'm not doing this anymore. So my sister-in-law, her friend Katie Carrington, it was her,
Yep.
you can
Yeah.
use that,
Mhm.
but her friend Katie had called you and gotten help. And so my sister-in-law talked me into it. She had mentioned it like 5 other times when I was complaining about sleeping. And so finally I just thought, I just have to do this.
Okay. So you guys, this is interesting. Again, we're doing a memory lane. So this is like she's going back in time and remembering what life was like in 2017. So she had been complaining, her child was 18 months old and was co-sleeping, breastfeeding all night, which is fine. If it works out for you and you're getting great sleep, it's not a problem. But Kate was not getting great sleep, you guys. She was like on the floor in this weird position, baby up all night, 4 or 5 times, even in a co-sleeping environment. No one was getting sleep. Husband wasn't getting sleep. And so your sister-in-law mentioned to me 5 separate times, and yet you still didn't make a change. So what was keep it, if you had been unhappy for a long time, like what was keeping you from getting the help when someone even gave you a great resource? Like you even had, like some families don't even know it's a possible, but you had a resource and a proven one. So what was it about the delay in getting the help?
So I was part of a lot of mom groups, and I felt like there were two camps within my particular humongous mom group, where one of them was people who would get up with their kids all night, co-sleep, or just like was going in every time their kid would fuss. And then I felt like the other camp was like people who had done cry it out, and so people who like went did that method, which is like the Ferber method, which is not something that you and I did. Um, so I felt like there are two really distinct camps. Like either you did this like sleep training or you went and catered to your kid all the time. And I felt like like maybe the cry it out method would be traumatic for a child. And I didn't really realize that you could gently teach your child to sleep, that there was like an in between, and you didn't have to do like an extreme method where you just shut the door on your child and let them scream for hours. Like I couldn't deal with that. And that there was like a good in between, that there were all these other methods that I
Mhm.
hadn't tried. There's like a psychology behind it. There was this thing that we went over, which was like about calories. I didn't realize that she was waking up for food. I mean, it's like so rational, but I just hadn't put that together. Um, so I had just felt like there was a bad connotation behind sleep training your kid. I felt like
Mhm.
it was, I mean, frankly, I felt like some of the methods came off as a little bit like uncaring.
Mhm.
And so to know that there were so many other steps that I could take was very enlightening for me.
Yeah. So that's really important. So there you were, you're surrounded by your mommy community, and there's this very polarized view. It's like either you cry it out or you martyr yourself. That there's like literally there's no middle ground. And because there's no middle ground, there's really no resolution. You either martyr yourself until complete sleep deprivation, or you have to do this terrible, awful thing that you don't want to do. It's not part of your family value system. And I'm so sad to hear that there's still this. Now, this was 2017. So I think things are evolving in terms of the conversations that are happening in mom communities. But in case you're listening to this in the first time and you have this experience with Kate that Kate had, where there's this polarized thinking, I just want you to know that there are always options, and that I'm a gentle sleep coach, and that is a way that we can teach the skills of sleep in a very in a method that is based on sleep science, behavioral science, and attachment theory. So you are with your child while you're helping them learn the foundational skills of sleep. And I remember the first time we talked, and when I explained that to you, it was like so much relief. You were like, really? Like, I don't have to do this terrible, awful thing? And I was like, no, you don't. And then you were like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
It's more like teaching than training.
exactly. Actually, it's such a great way to put it. So I remember we worked together, and within 2 to 3 weeks, we had gotten nights and naps all situated. So there you are, now she's 18 months, she's sleeping through the night. And then Kate's like, okay, bye. And how many years were you like, woohoo, like, this is awesome?
Well, it went on until the very last point where we needed to get her in a bed. I think we kept her in a crib all the way till like 4. And finally we felt like she needed a bed. She was outgrowing the crib. So, I mean, that went on for 2.5 years. She was like, I mean, it was like clockwork. We would read to her, we would say goodnight at the exact same time every night. And it was just like nothing, it was just silence
Easy.
for
Yeah.
12 hours and no tears, like no fighting bedtime, like no issues in the evening.
And in those, so because you solved the sleep problem and you had 2.5 years of reliable, predictable sleep, drama free, what were you like? How did you get your life back? Like, what became possible for you because your child was sleeping?
So I think it was annoying for some other parents because when I would talk about it, they would be like, what is that like? And I would be like, it's like I have two separate lives. Like, I have this life with this wonderful life as a mom for 12 hours. And then after that, I have like 4 hours of just freedom. And
Mhm.
I mean, you can kind of do what you want. You can go on a date and like get a sitter, and you don't have to worry that your kid's going to wake up and freak out with some stranger.
Mhm.
So that was a really fun one, is that, or I mean, I could go out by myself and I didn't have to worry about her waking up and wanting mom instead of dad.
Mhm.
So, and then Trace could go, by himself whenever. And so we could take, individually, but we could take bike rides and, just reliably exercise and, you know, had time to work. There's so many things that I was not able to do. But also, we my husband and I didn't want to sleep in separate rooms. But we had a kid around all the time. So just not having your child there all the
Yeah,
time.
that's right. I had forgotten. Yeah, that because the co-sleeping had gotten so crazy that your husband Trace had to move to the guest room because there was just too much action going on in the bedroom, too many arousals, too much feet and arms and movement. Yeah,
Yeah.
so for 18 months, it was like you guys were, okay, night night, me and
Yeah.
Eve, and then dad was over here, and now we got Eve sleeping in her own room, happy, content, and then you guys got your master bedroom back, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes. So I had gone to the guest room with Eve, and we were in this like anyway, it was not a good, it's not
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
whatever.
It wasn't, yeah, it was like,
Um,
mattress on the floor kind of thing.
like not
Um,
working.
okay. And then when we moved, I remember, so then when we moved to the big girl bed, then there was a regression, which is normal, you guys. It happens. It's a big change. And whenever there's a big change, sometimes there's a sleep regression. But Kate knew not to like struggle. And you called me.
I did, and the only thing I wish I had done both times is called you sooner. I mean, like, if I had another kid, you guys, I feel like I could do it because I would call Joanna immediately. Be
Yeah.
like, okay, what do I start doing right now? Just so I wish I had called you before I did the transition to the bed, because I bet there was like a bunch of important things that I overlooked. And
Yeah.
so she started like appearing in our bedroom in the middle of the night, like, which when you've had a kid who's been sleeping in a crib, a child appearing in your bedroom is terrifying.
Terrifying. Yeah.
Someone starts speaking in your room and you're like, or they just like show up next to you and like watch you while you're sleeping in the morning.
Yes.
It's like a horror story. So that was happening quite a bit. And, inevitably, you and your partner have to figure out who's getting up. And when it's one person, most of the time, that's like not great for like the division of labor and feelings like that in the, you know, relationship. And so for a while, he was doing it all the time, and then he's tired. And then, anyway, so we had struggles with that. And so I called you about how to help me with that transition.
Yes. Yes. And again, you guys, it happens. Big girl and big boy bed transitions are a big deal. I always recommend planning in advance so that you don't have to go back and clean up stuff. But we were able to clean it up, and everything went really well. And then the last time you called me was you guys moved, did a big geographic move for professional opportunities. And so then all of a sudden it was like, she's older, she's in school, it's a rental house, moving to the regular house, different bedrooms, different setups, and just needing another support to help things get back on track. And we were able to do that because we just talked recently and
Yes.
Mhm.
And then again for the daylight savings issue, because
Yes.
when we switched to daylight savings time, we were trying to keep her old bedtime, so she was going to bed at 8 when she had previously been going down at 7, and it turned out we were putting her to bed way late, and just usually within a day or two of talking to you, I'm seeing differences, like sometimes that same day.
Yes.
It doesn't take like a week. It doesn't take,
Right.
I noticed, because a lot of it is preparing her during the day,
Yes.
going over things and rehearsing and things like that, like setting expectations.
Yes.
So it's not something for me. I'm not sure if it's this way across the board, but it doesn't take a long time
Mhm.
to work.
Right. Right. Because when we have clarity on the pieces of the puzzle that are out of place, then we can easily kind of rebuild the foundation um, to help sleep get back on track. So what would you tell a mom, like, a mom that's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to, I'm too scared. I've tried everything and nothing has worked. Um, my husband doesn't want, or whatever, like, just lots of reasons why, lots of justifications and reasons why making a change would be too hard. What do you
So
want, what myths do you want to debunk, I guess? What sleep training myths would you like to debunk after your years of focusing on sleep?
there are a lot. Um, I felt like it was very breastfeeding friendly.
Mhm.
That was a concern of mine, was impacting like my relationship with her with breastfeeding. And so I felt like you actually knew a lot about that and were able to teach me how I was her hunger clock. We talked a
Mhm.
lot about that. And so you helped me figure out how to just night wean her, which is like something that a lactation consultant would do. So it's like you have expertise in that area.
Mhm.
And then part of what you did, I felt like, was like therapy, like counseling. Like it was like a medically, like it felt like part like lactation consulting, part therapy. And it was like it was coaching. It
Mhm.
was like um it was very it helped me a lot with my anxiety around co-sleeping and sleep training
Mhm.
because Eve wasn't even sleeping by herself when she first I had to sleep with her the whole time.
Mhm. 18
So
months.
I
Yep.
wasn't even getting, those few hours in the evening. So having to be with your because I was a stay-at-home mom too, having to be with your kid 24 hours a day was just a lot. And so I felt guilty for not for
Mhm.
sleep training because I think that there sometimes is a preconception of like selfish or like you just want more sleep so you'll put your baby through this like thing where they feel abandoned, and it wasn't like that. Like I think that I did Eve a favor to teach her how to stop waking up because she didn't want you said this and this made stood out to me. She doesn't want to be awake either. She's also like struggling, and this is impacting her mood during the day, and if she's
Mhm.
like having all these tantrums, she's probably exhausted, and then she's
Mhm.
overtired all the time, and then like nobody's having a good time with these situations.
Right.
So it changed her a lot during the day and it impacted her learning. And so I think of it almost as a health thing.
Mhm.
It's not just it's not frivolous. It's like
Mhm.
as essential as eating well and exercising and sleeping right. um
Right.
like
Mhm.
one of the main foundational things. And so um, I think of it as like if you had a big problem in your body, like if you were sick, you would go to a doctor. And like I think of this as that important.
Mhm. Mhm. No, I think that's beautifully said, that the the myth is, as a mother, it's selfish for me to want sleep. Um, but here's what I know. This is a shocking statistic. They have researched that with sleep deprivation compromises your ability to be empathetic.
I believe that.
So if you're a mother and you're sleep deprived, it literally means that you're going to have less emotional resilience to have empathy for your child, for your partner, for your friends and family, for your coworkers. And if you get really honest with yourself and you realize, like, okay, if I'm trying to be the best mom I can be and I lack empathy because I'm sleep deprived, how can I, then I'm not as emotionally connected to my child as I could be if I can't be empathetic to their needs, or the needs of my spouse or my colleagues or whatever, right? So it's sleep is a foundation for optimal health. And so if a mother is recognizing in her own life that she has overwhelm and sleep deprivation because her child is not sleeping, it means the child is also not sleeping well. So
Yeah,
it's a dual problem. If the child's not sleeping, the mom's not sleeping well. So if the child's not sleeping, this is solvable because it's a learned skill that we're teaching. And if we get the child sleeping, then the mother can start to sleep. And then we get back to the balance. Um, so it's not selfish to sleep train. It's in fact the most loving,
yes,
responsive, responsible thing you can do for yourself and your child and your family life, and for how you go out into the world in terms of being like a compassionate, empathetic, emotionally connected human being.
I agree. And I think that that was kind of what I was getting at earlier to say, being with Eve 24 hours a day, it seemed like the most selfless thing, but my bandwidth was so much shorter during the day because I wasn't sleeping at night. And I think that my patience got better. I think, I can enjoy the hours I'm with her so much more because I'm not with her. for
Right.
those sleeping
Right.
hours.
Right. Like everyone needs rest, and rest and personal restoration. Time for oneself is so important, especially for a woman and a mother, time for oneself, even if you just have that hour where you're taking a shower by yourself and reading a book before bedtime. I mean, that's sacred, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Or just
So
to eat a meal, especially when your baby is young, like just having that time to eat and like make
mhm,
yourself some food.
make yourself a good meal and sit down and enjoy it. Yeah. So you would say that, like, if you were to debunk some myths, is like, it's not selfish, it's not traumatizing,
No,
you're not damaging your child.
you don't have to cry it out.
You don't have to cry it out. No, because gentle sleep coaching is possible. You're not abandoning your child by doing this. And just because you tried everything doesn't mean that nothing is available to help you. It's possible that you haven't done the right things to help. And what I mean by that is, sleep is a very complex puzzle.
Yes.
And if you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle being attended to, it won't click into place for that beautiful puzzle. And so if you've tried everything, it's possible that some really key components of your puzzle are lost underneath the dining room table that you didn't even know you don't even know where they are. And that's where a coach can come in and really help get that big picture and pull together all those pieces of the puzzle to help you, help your child learn how to learn their sleep skills.
I agree. I mean, there were things that you brought up like eczema that I just had never even thought of. I mean, we like even looked at underlying conditions was a part of the puzzle that you put together. And then also I felt like you really took time to get to know what my child was like.
Mhm.
You asked enough questions and the right questions, and you did those questionnaires, and I felt like you really understood her. You would
Mhm.
just have a good understanding of children, and it made me feel really reassured that you were, connected and understanding, like you were changing things based on who she was.
Yes, absolutely. Because temperament matters and relationships matter, in terms of how the family relationships and also the logistics of the household. All of that matters to help create a new pattern for the child that the child will feel comfortable and confident in, and that the parent will feel comfortable and confident in implementing. So, um, their age and stage and temperament and the flow of the family matters, right? So that's, I guess, another myth that we could debunk, is that when you sleep train your baby, that your life becomes more rigid. And I would say, no, 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 your life becomes easier. Oh, it becomes so easy, right? Because now you have reliability and predictability, and you know your child in a way you did not know them before. And so you can maneuver and flow with your life in a far better way than you ever had.
I agree. And I just thought of another myth is
Okay.
that um, I thought that my child was too I didn't think it could work for me. I thought that there was something about my child where it would not work. But, in your experience, you've had success with every type of
Everybody, every type of child. Yes.
and like so if you think that it can't work for you, that I feel like that's just like a depressive thought, not like, it's just a that's like a
It's a
story.
limiting belief. It's a
Yeah.
limiting belief that
Yes.
that you're that yes, that your situation is so complex that there's nobody out there to help you. Um, and yeah, it's a narrow view that keeps you locked into the situation, right? And in
Yeah.
a way, that was happening to you because you had received, like, call Joanna, 5 times, and still you hadn't, right? Until you finally hit desperation. I would say that the other myth would be, you don't have to hit desperation before you make a phone call, right? Because so many moms come to me utterly depleted. They have just hit the skids, as I say. You can come to get help sooner than hitting the skids. you know
I think it's better to, because like when I've hit hiccups, it would have helped me to have called you earlier, because one thing that you taught me is that these sleep crutches and these patterns can be established over a few days.
Yes.
Like, you can create a sleep crutch so quickly,
Yes.
so
Yes.
accidentally,
And
um,
accidentally.
and you oftentimes don't even know it.
Right.
Um, and one another thing that you said, that stood out to me was that, oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I just got a text. I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna give it back to you.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So just that, I guess in the big picture, you guys, the reason I'm so glad we got to talk with Kate today is that, again, she worked with me in 2017 when her child was 18 months. We solved the problem. She had 2.5 years of just easy bliss. And then some normal developmental things happened, switching to the big girl bed, moving to a new city, engaging in a time change. And she just needed some tune ups. And that is normal and expected. And as time has gone on, Kate got better and better at asking for help sooner so that because she knew that when she went and asked for help, that she would get suggestions she could implement and basically get results in just 1 to 2 days. So, and that we just spent some time just debunking some myths that sleep training is really not this terrible, awful thing. That's in fact one of the most loving things you can do for your child and your family to establish these healthy sleep habits for life. And that it just makes sense for a mom to be able to recognize that she can take care of herself, that is as important of taking care of herself as it is of taking care of her family members, because often we are the center, the spoke on the wheel, like we are the center, right? And so we have to do what we can to keep ourselves healthy and sane so we can be the best mom and spouse and friend and coworker and professional that we can possibly be. And it starts with sleep.
Yes. So I wanted to just wrap up and say that I remembered what I was going to tell you, which is, that you mentioned that sometimes it's just one thing that you're overlooking, and that's happened to me over and over. It's too late of a bedtime, or she's eating too late, and so going through each part of our routine has helped me so much, because a lot of times you say it's this one piece of the puzzle that you're missing, and so that's been
Well,
super
that's
helpful for me.
true if your child is already sleep trained, right? So if your child already has impeccable sleep skills and there's a regression,
Yeah.
there is usually we're able to kind of go in back into the puzzle and recognize where the holes are, and then
Mhm.
we approach each of the holes and kind of then rebuild. But for those of you that have never had a child that had their independent sleep skills, which is to be able to regulate, settle, and soothe to sleep, then just it's not about one piece. I wish it would be wonderful. If it could be easy to identify, like quick fixes, but unfortunately, um, teaching the skills of sleep is a learning process. It's a learned skill, and so we have to create that optimal environment, that optimal circumstance for your child to learn those skills through practice and mastery, so that those skills get anchored. And that's what then the anchoring of the sleep skills allows you to have the lifelong sleep skills. Like Kate, we anchored those sleep skills, so she had 2.5 years of just totally regulated, predictable sleep. And then a regression happened because of the transition to the big girl bed, which can happen. And then we solve that, and then these other transitions come. So Kate, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your story and your triumphs, and for teaching moms that it's okay to ask for help, and that it is actually the one of the best things you can do is to ask for help.
Thank you, Joanna. Thanks for having me. It was great to talk to you.
Okay, awesome.